Well, hello, everyone. I missed you so much. I decided to make a guest host appearance here on the Todd Veinotte show today. Well, don't worry, Todd's back tomorrow. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Alstrand, and I'll be with you here for the next 3 hours. And I'm very glad that you've made some time for us here on the first day back to work officially for most. It sure felt like it out there this morning. It's the first day back to work, to school for many people, and boy, did it just feel like this morning, the traffic reports, it was all of that, was it not? Right? We had a car ped on Victoria Road this morning. We had a crash on North and Gottingen Streets, and there was another one in the Exchange. It's like we follow some kind of script, isn't it? We get vacations and we take time away, and everybody forgets what the drive is like in the morning, and it's a crazy traffic day on the following Monday. It's like we just follow some sort of pattern. Well, there's nothing to talk about today, is there? Boy, there's a lot of reports this morning that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is getting ready to resign. Some say it could happen as early as today. What is it with Trudeau's and snow? Right? Pierre went for a walk in the snow just before he stepped down, and now his son, after a Christmas skiing vacation in BC, is poised to do the same. So with the Liberals soon to be leaderless, and again, that could happen as early as right now until sometime before Wednesday in that caucus meeting, but with the Liberals soon to be leaderless, and by most indications, Parliament will be prorogued, the Prime Minister will shut things down in order to give the Liberal Party some time to figure out what they're going to do next or who the next leader will be. My question to you today is this. With Justin Trudeau stepping down, and many of you who I listen to call into the show quite regularly have asked, nay, I say demanded, is it enough to save the Liberal Party? If it is, who's the savior? Is it Chrystia Freeland? Is it Mark Carney? Is it Sean Casey? Is it Anita Anand? Is it someone else? Or is it just way too late? And this incarnation of the Liberals in Canada has passed its expiry date. And is going to get tossed out on the next garbage heap, regardless of who takes over the top position. How about the loonie? It's on a tear this morning. It's seeing its biggest gain in weeks in all of this speculation. I'll give you my thoughts on this when we open up the telephone lines at 11 o'clock for the open hour today. I'm sure there's going to be lots of interest on this, and a lot of you will have some thoughts and some opinions on this latest development to come out of the never-ending saga that is the Liberals these days in Ottawa. My thanks to Vanessa Vandenez behind the glass and running things today. As always, a fantastic job, and even a tougher task when Todd's not here. As I mentioned, the first real day back to work. Did you get some time off over the Christmas holidays? I know I did, and I appreciated the time off. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But when I get an extended period of time off, and I did, I managed to get a fairly significant break, and I know that I'm lucky to be able to have that. I know many of you didn't, but when I get a significant amount of time off, my body is grateful, and I'm grateful for it. But then when I'm getting, midway through or halfway through, I want to go back to work. Like I must be just weird, I guess. It was just kind of nagging at me to get back and work. I'm very glad to be here today to do that. We're, of course, it is Monday here, and traditionally on the Todd Veinotte Show on Mondays, we do our Councillors on the Hot Seat segment, and Vanessa is working behind the scenes to wrangle our councillors. District 5 Councillor Sam Austin, I am told, is inbound and will be here momentarily, so you'll have to listen to me chat for a little bit longer until he gets here. And District 7 Councillor Laura White also on the schedule today. Vanessa working behind the scenes to try and connect up with our councillor. Lots to talk about with them as well. As we know, the budget season is coming. It's very, very close, and that will begin here very shortly. And, of course, whenever it comes to budget time, there's an awful lot to talk about. And I know that there's some contentious issues that have already popped up with the budget this year, particularly coming out of the police file. And I see somebody peeking through the door and coming in here now. I'm not going to embarrass him that he's only 6 minutes late. But there's that 5-minute rule, isn't there, Councillors, Austin?
I would take any grace I can get this morning.
It's like the 5-second rule, but it's the 5-minute rule here on the Todd Veinotte Show.
Eric Spicer, over to you this morning.
Here you go. How are you, Sam?
I'm good. How are you?
How was your holiday?
I had a fantastic holiday. It was nice to have a little time off with the family.
Did you get some time away where you just kind of unplugged and didn't do anything?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Phone went in the drawer on the 23rd, and today is resuming work.
It's kind of nice, but I was just talking about it on the radio. I don't know if you heard it. I had a longer break. I had a couple weeks off, which was really nice. But near the end of it, it was like, I really want to get back to work. Just, you have all that stuff that you get that resting to recovery, and then it's like, I really want to get to work. And you guys have a busy schedule in the new year, particularly off the top of the budget.
January, February, March are the 3 most demanding months of the council calendar, just because all the other work doesn't go away. You still have regional council. You still have all the work you do behind the scenes with residents and staff. And you throw, 2 more full-day meetings a week into the mix. So it is the most demanding time of the year.
902-405-6000 is the telephone number. It's 902-405-6000. This is Councillors on the Hot Seat. Sam, before we get into the contentious stuff, what's happening? What's new in District 5?
Yeah, so I've been unplugged, so I'll have to get back to you on that. The main thing I can think of that's coming up on the agenda is actually just a feel-good one. January 31st, there, the end of the month. That weekend is the Ice Festival in downtown Dartmouth, which is an event that has grown tremendously, and I think the folks in the Downtown Dartmouth Business Commission, they have a lot to be proud of the success of that. It's now become something that actually generates hotel room stays in the region.
Nice.
Right? There's a blip on that weekend, and the only thing going on is the Ice Festival in downtown Dartmouth.
That's a lot of fun. I've been to it. It's a good event, and it's at the right time of the year, I think. It
kind of shakes off those doldrums,
right?
It's
and you get out of that
time,
and it is. But you get off that Christmas rush, and then there's always that lull. There's just really nothing going on. But if you get a chance to get out there and see some people you haven't seen in a while, we have a pinch hitter today because we're still trying to connect up with Laura White, but we decided to, because there was an important hockey game on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday night, where the almighty Toronto Maple Leafs were playing host to the Boston Bruins, and our guest is Councillor David Hensbee, and I wonder if Councillor Hensbee watched that. Dave, did you watch that game?
Oh, yes, I did. It was exciting for part of it until it was 3-3, and then Toronto scores, and Boston made it interesting, just not enough to put them over the top.
It's going to be a long season, I think, for the Bruins this year. Just looking at the lineup.
It should be interesting. It's going to be a tight race in the Eastern Division regardless of the last playoff. Even Ottawa's very competitive this year. So you got Florida, you got Tampa, you got Toronto, you got Ottawa. Even Montreal made a bit of a run this past week, but I'm pretty sure they're going to fizzle out as well.
902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. David, I asked, Sam will ask you the same thing. What's new and exciting happening in your district since we flipped the calendar to 2025?
Well, this morning I was just at the opening of the brand new school in East Chesapeake, the East Shore Consolidated School. The junior high school classes are in today, and the senior high grades will be in next month. They're still doing construction on various parts of the building, but today was the first day for the junior high school kids to be in the new school at the East Chesapeake Industrial Park. So I just wanted to wish the principal well, and there'll be an open house sometime, probably for the parents of the students there sometime in later February, and hopefully another open house for the general public sometime in March.
Exciting times, Dave. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. All right, let's get to it. There was another tent fire over the weekend, another person injured. It seems that every time we do this segment, we talk about tent encampments and we talk about the homeless situation here in HRM. We'll start with you, Councillor Austin. What's the latest on your thoughts on how we're handling this situation? We know that the mayor brought forth a resolution that was defeated at council. Where do we go next with this problem?
Yeah, I mean, It's such an awful, awful issue in terms of having people living outside in a country as wealthy as ours. There's no need of it. Homelessness is a choice. We choose not to fund housing. We choose not to fund the social programs that are needed. And as a result, people fall through the cracks and they're left living outside. And that is something that we should all be ashamed of because it shouldn't be happening. And if you look around the world, there are countries that are doing much better at this than us, right? Finland is like the gold star out there, right? Where it's like, hey, you provide the social programs and you provide the housing. And who knew homelessness goes down, right? Like there are solutions. We just choose to, kind of, for lack of a better term, half-ass it, because that's really what we've been doing as a society on this issue. And it's so disheartening when you see people it's not just the tent fire. I mean, we've had an individual in my district who died outside. And, you look at that and you say, well, we're sitting here in January. Winter is not some surprise. Where's the winter shelter, right? That is supposed to be up and running, right? For people. Like winter is not a surprise. Where's the province's winter shelter? It's not here. And as a result, people are outside. And that's unacceptable. And on the municipal side, right, we had a discussion, a couple months back regarding what sort of support levels we should be providing at encampments. Everyone, like mayor included, everyone agrees that encampments aren't a solution. But our challenge is what do we do in the here and now where we're stuck with that because we don't have the supports that are needed for everyone. And I think, we're going to have to revisit this idea of what's level of support we're providing at encampments because people are suffering and people are dying.
Councillor Hensbee, your thoughts on how we're handling the homeless situation?
It's a very difficult matter there. As Sam has said, it's that waiting for the province to open up any more winter shelters. We're doing our best with the Halifax Forum and everything else. But in the meantime, I just hope that people that are encampments, if there's any space capacity available at any of our shelters, I wish they will take us up on the offer.
It was like minus 18 with the wind chill this morning, Councillor Austin. Outside of what's being done now, is there anything else that the city can do to provide any kind of space for people when it gets this cold?
I mean, we provide a supporting role to the province on this. So the winter shelter program is provincial. In the past, it's operated out of municipal spaces. We're kind of at the wall in terms of what the municipal spaces available are, right? We already gave up space at the Forum on an ongoing basis. If we have to give up another space, we're talking about taking some sort of rec facility offline. That's going to have some major disruption. I understand the province is pursuing other spaces, and I think that we're close to an announcement. But, and as critical as I am of them, I think we do have to acknowledge that there has been a lot of good work that has been done. The situation would be 100 times worse if it weren't for the investments they've made, tiny homes in Sackville, the pallets, things like the Waverley Inn. There's been a lot of good work that's done. Unfortunately, we're not at the point where the amount of work that's been done, the amount of new units that's come online is more than what the need is. Like we are not ahead of what the need is out there.
Councillor Hensbee, you watched the provincial election campaign like I did. Are you hopeful that the province will be a little bit more receptive to helping the city out with this issue?
I certainly hope so, especially with the inroads that the Conservatives made in Metro Halifax area. I think it's more important for them to have those urban seats and to deal with some of the urban realities that we have, such as the encampment situation. So I hope the caucus with the new urban voices will be speaking loud and clear to the ministers and to the Premier about this issue.
This is Councillors on the Hot Seat. You're listening to us here on 95.7 News Radio. We're going to take our first break. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right. Well, we had a little bit of breaking news here. We talked about it off the top of the show today, that there was a lot of rumors and speculation swirling around Parliament Hill and in Ottawa that the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was set to announce his resignation today. Got word during the break that the Prime Minister has called a news conference on short notice, as we call it in the business, a hastily arranged news conference for 11 o'clock Atlantic time at Rideau College in Ottawa, amid all of this calls and speculation about his resignation. So we will keep an eye on things in Ottawa, and when the Prime Minister steps up to that podium here on the Todd Veinotte Show, we will bring that to you live so you can listen to it in its entirety, or at least into bits of it. We don't want to go on for about 3 hours, but we'll take it as long as we can, and you'll be able to catch that. So that'll be part of the open hour, and it'll just dovetail into the open hour, and you can react to it. It's like they planned it. It's like they knew that the Todd Veinotte Show does an open hour at 11 o'clock, right?
They even factored in the time change.
There you go. See? It's all good. And it's always the world's, and Todd will tell you this, the world revolves around Todd Veinotte. I'm just saying that. Councillor David Hensbee is on the line. Councillor Sam Austin is here. This is Councillors on the Hot Seat. The number is 902-405-6000. If you have a question, a concern, perhaps a complaint, or a laurel, we'll take both. This is your opportunity. It's one of the only opportunities you get in live radio anyway to have a conversation with a councillor, and we're glad to do it, just like Ed is going to do. Ed, how are you?
I'm good. I got a couple of questions for the councillors.
Sure.
First question is, I'm not sure if they'll admit to it or not. Isn't there a bit of an unwritten rule that, when a new mayor comes in, that, you guys got to basically back him up because the public has voted him in on certain issues? So one of those issues was regarding encampments. Here's Andy Fillmore coming to you guys saying, hey, I want to get rid of them. And council went against what the new mayor asked for. Doesn't that go against a bit of an unwritten rule where you need to kind of do what the mayor says?
Let's get the answers from our councillors. We'll start with you, Sam.
So Andy Fillmore would be the first new mayor that I've ever served with. There's not, to my knowledge, any sort of rule that way at all. The power of the mayor's, it's an interesting role. The mayor has a lot of power to convene and a lot of soft power because, he is the official that is elected with the largest mandate really in the province in terms of direct vote. There's no one that receives more votes than the mayor of HRM. And that carries a lot of weight, but it's not, there's not party discipline at City Hall, right? We're all independent thinkers, and some of the challenge on an issue like encampments is it's a complex, challenging one that didn't go the mayor's way, but it's early in the mandate, and I think the mayor, if programs continue to expand on the provincial level, I think the mayor will still have a chance to deliver on that mandate if we're just not quite there yet.
Hensbee, you've been around for a while. Is there a rule? Is there an unwritten rule? Is there a protocol when it comes to what the mayor says?
No, I served with all the mayors of Halifax since amalgamation, and there's no rule or protocol. The mayors have an agenda, but the question is how new that mayor may be to certain municipal realities. The learning curve for them as well. I voted against the mayor's request because I said, it's great to be idealistic, but we have to be realistic here in regards to the situation. Until we have shelters for everybody in all capacities, then we just can't start closing encampments just because of the will of one person or the mayor. We got to be cautious of if these encampments are still popping up. We want to have the control where they could go instead of them organically showing up anywhere. So that's why.
Ed, did you get your answer?
Yeah, that's cool. Here's my other second question. Derek Martin, the owner of the Wanderers, came to council last year to put a permanent stadium at the Wanderers grounds. Where does that stand? We're getting a professional women's team in the new year. And do both of you guys support his plan?
Start with you, Sam.
Sure. So, it's too early to say. It hasn't come back to council yet in terms of a staff report recommendation. So we don't have all our info yet. I will say that I'm more open to considering this one than I ever was with the CFL bid. The CFL bid felt like let's take these small town Huskers and take us for all we can get. Whereas I think the pitch from the Wanderers is a very different thing. It's a proven quantity in town now. and the location makes so much more sense than a suburban thing. So I'm open to the idea, but I don't have a position yet because we simply don't have all the information back yet.
Hensbee, your thoughts on the stadium and the Wanderers grounds?
Well, the biggest thing is it's municipal property, and the municipality should have control and ownership of any asset that goes on that property. So I think that's something we still need to negotiate with the users, that if they were going to have more of a permanent structure there, who should own and manage and operate it.
Ed, appreciate the call, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000 is the lines. Lots of lines open if you want to ask a question of our councillors here today. We had a conversation, Todd had a conversation last week with Councillor Mancini as we start to get into budget discussions. And one of the things that has come to the forefront, at least from the police budget perspective, is that HRP is asking or will ask for an armored vehicle to supplement their equipment, so to speak. Councillor Hensbee, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on getting HRP an armored vehicle?
I supported it last time, and I'll support it again.
Councillor Austin?
Yeah, so I was a little surprised to see this back just because council had made such a firm decision on it last time. And I understand, I haven't had a chance to dig into it, but that the CEO had actually already approved the thing. So I think there's some discussion that needs to happen on that. I didn't support it last time around. That's kind of my inkling right now, but I don't know if I actually have the chance to wade in one way or the other because it sounded like it was already
Can
approved.
the CEO make that decision?
It's within her authority.
It's a pretty big expenditure, isn't it?
It is. The CEO has delegated a fair bit of spending authority, so I think that's where that is. But like I said, today's first day back after the holiday, so I haven't had a chance to actually dig into it yet.
Why were you opposed to it last time?
Well, we're faced with a whole lot of pressures around defunding the police and police reform and what policing really needs to look like. And so there is certainly a lot of public appetite for that kind of approach. On the other side, I just looked at it from a practical standpoint. We do have an armored vehicle here with the RCMP, and I wasn't quite convinced that, we needed to have multiple armored vehicles in a province our size. The growth that's been happening, some of the threats that have occurred since, right? It might be time to take another look at it. But, I haven't, like I said today, I haven't had the chance to fully turn my mind as to where that actually is and what the kind of pitch is for it.
Councillor Hensbee, you supported it last time. You're going to support it again this time. Why?
Well, the one the RCMP have is not always 100% available to us. I believe that's also available anywhere in the province. So there could be a situation arises that if we do need an armored vehicle, it could be not out of commission, but out of the town for another service elsewhere. I believe that the police need to have whatever resources they need to do their job safely. We are a growing municipality, and we don't know what kind of dangers may lurk ahead in the future. We learned from the Portapic situation in regards to our armed readiness or preparedness and stuff. So the question may be is when it comes to emergency services and stuff, these type of vehicles will come in very handy, not just for protection of police, but also to get access to the public, to get public out of dangerous situations.
On the phone is Councillor David Hensbee. In the studio is Councillor Sam Austin. Councillors on the hot seat will continue after Blake updates us on what's going on in the news. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to The Todd Veinotte Show. I don't know if you remember back a couple years ago when we used to have news conferences out of Rideau College and the Prime Minister daily when we were under the all of the warnings and restrictions and such from COVID-19. He tends to change his mind with times, and he's done that already this morning. That news conference I mentioned earlier, that is set for 11 o'clock Atlantic time, now 11:45 Atlantic time, and we will, as always, bring you that news conference live when it happens. The Prime Minister expected to make an announcement with regards to his political future, we'll say, here this morning from Ottawa. And if you stay tuned right here to the Todd Veinotte Show and to 95.7 News Radio, we will bring that to you. This is Councillors on the Hot Seat. He is Sam Austin. On the phone with us is Councillor David Hensbee. The telephone number is 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. We welcome Gloria to the program. Gloria, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and to the councillors. Excuse me, my question to the councillors is, I hear the talk about province being responsible for housing. How many warming centres has HRM set up with this frigid weather?
Sam, we'll start with you.
I'm not sure. It wouldn't be HRM. So HRM, it's just like the winter shelter thing. It's a supporting role. So the province decides when we're going to open shelters. It's a mandate they have, and it's a program they deliver. And when the request goes out, HRM often provides a municipal facility for them, but it's not one that we run.
What do you say, David? Do you have the same line?
It's not a line, Gloria. It's reality.
Yeah, no, it isn't reality. You have a moral responsibility. The province has to do it. Since when did the province take over every responsibility?
This one has been provincial responsibility since 1996, which included your entire term in office.
Yeah, I know. And I remember when they talked about affordable housing, me saying we have a moral responsibility. We did back then and we still do. And nothing happens. David?
Councillor Hensbee, are you there?
Did we lose David?
I think we lost David. I'm going to put him on hold, Vanessa, and try not to lose Gloria at the same time. You still there, Gloria?
Yes, I'm still here.
Good. So your contention is that it's a city responsibility to open warming shelters?
We have a moral responsibility. If I saw somebody walking down the street here without a coat, I'd go out and give them a coat. Is it my responsibility? Of course it isn't. But you have feeling for these people. You care about them. You can open a center and have hot coffee and make it a little more comfortable for them if you really care.
You want to respond?
So sure. So I mean, the city does care, and we've been doing an absolute lot. Yeah. If you look at the approach around encampments, if you look at the approach at our municipal facilities, such as our libraries, which in the absence of warming centers, in the absence of a day center, all of things that we do need in this city, guess where the gap is being fulfilled? It's being fulfilled at our libraries. I know the Alderney Branch Library takes a lot of people in.
Yeah, I go down
on
to
a
the
daily
Alderney
basis.
Library.
Yeah,
Some of the people do go there to get warm.
But I mean, and this is, it is an uncomfortable conversation, but the reality is that the city does not have the resources or capacity to replace the Department of Community Services, or whatever the new name for them is.
Why don't we have the resources to open a warming center?
Well, we don't
have resources for everything else.
Councillor Hensbee, you want to respond?
Well, Gloria, we are providing the Halifax Forum location to the province for that. What other municipal assets we got? We don't have very many other places we can open up, unless you want to close down an arena for something, but the arenas are not very warm places to be, unless we start closing the Canada Games Center or some other.
You can heat them. You can heat them, David.
Yeah, but, to walk into Scotia Square and use the main foyer in Scotia Square. That's wide open space in there, well heated and everything else. Very public. The only problem is it's a very public area. So, if there's an emergency,
somebody providing coffee in there for them?
I don't know. That's something we could talk to this is Crombie group about in regards to that. But the situation though is that if it was a disaster situation, we'll be using any resources in a state of emergency situation. But we're not in the state of emergency, so we just can't go in there and.
We're not in a state of emergency with people out in this.
Gloria, you know the rules in regards to state of emergency. It has to be declared either by the municipality or by the province in regards to us to be able to sequester resources from anyone. But we're not in that situation at the present time. We have availabilities of shelters being provided by the province. We provided the area space that.
I'm talking about a warming center, David. Somewhere they can go during the day to get warm.
Well, they have lots.
And HRM can't do that.
Our Halifax Public Libraries are open for everybody. I know a lot of people are going into the libraries for warming.
Yeah.
So they have been doing that already.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it with your conscience. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gloria. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. You mentioned state of emergency, Councillor Hensbee. Would we ever get to a point where it got really cold for an extended period of time that we could go down that route, or is that reserved for situations like we've seen with fires and those kind of things?
No, that is a possibility. We've had a situation a couple of winters ago. We had that extended polar vortex situation. I know we had a warming center established in Muscatine Harbor for that particular weekend. We had people's pipes freezing and everything stuff. It was so cold that weekend. So we had the response back then, but we worked with our EMO and also with our joint emergency management teams we have in rural areas as well as some of our facilities. So that is a possibility. If we have an extended cold snap, that is something we can certainly look at declaring.
Councillor Austin, would you support that?
So the big challenge with state of emergency around homelessness, because it's certainly something that I've thought about, is the municipality can declare a state of emergency, and I think the timeline is 1 week. At the end of the week, we don't have the ability to renew it unless the Minister of Emergency Management with the province agrees. So, if the homelessness was declared an emergency, it wouldn't be a short-term emergency that can be solved in a week. Fundamentally, we would get to the end of the week, and then the province would need to renew that state of emergency.
From a technical standpoint, when you declare a state of emergency, does that free funding up from the province, or is it all come out of the city coffers?
So, if a state of emergency is primarily the main thing is you get the power to do things like someone's not willing to rent to you. Well, you could take their space.
Okay, but it doesn't create any additional or access any additional funding for this.
No, it's not So, I mean, you kind of struggle with what would you do with it if you declared it, right? Like beyond just the optics of, making a splash with the declaration, what additional powers would you get that you could actually then use? And primarily it's the ability, state of emergency, the ability to, take private property to be used during an emergency, right? So that would be one possibility because, one of the things out there that's really tough, and we're all struggling with this, province and city, as soon as you mention that you're looking for space for the homelessness, no one wants to rent to you anymore. Like, it's been really tough finding private landlords that will give up space for the homeless.
That's why the province bought a couple hotels or renting a couple hotels. The old Dartmouth Holiday Inn on the Bridge Plaza, or the former Doubletree, and the other one on the north end of Dartmouth. So province has stepped in and did those extraordinary measures of renting out those hotels.
And I'll tell you, like, one of the things that, there's the immediate worry of where we are right now. The longer term worry is, like, when I look in my district, the Doubletree at the Bridge is a short-term lease. There's 100 people there. The church down on Windmill Road that has been made into a shelter, that's also a lease. The property's owned by a developer that's eventually going to want to do something with the property. It's a society. It's not just province. It's collectively. We need permanent public housing, right? People do not want to work with you when it involves the homelessness for all sorts of practical, but also some stigma. So unless you're going to be owning, like, we could be in a very precarious situation in just a few short years where the little bit of space that we have created could go and disappear from the shelter system. And that doesn't even include the form where we do have a big project to eventually do ourselves, and 100 people there, right? So we're not in a good space. We need permanent government-owned where there's security.
902-405-6000 is the number. We welcome David to the program. David, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Your question, please.
My question is, I guess for David Hensbee the most, about the police wanting an armored vehicle. I don't know if he kind of really understood what the need would be before he makes a comment like that. Last time I checked, we had murders in the city unsolved. We had 4 murders, I believe, into the new year. I think our resources in the police department should be around extra officers or a unit to try to crack down on this problem? We have a gun problem in our city, David, a serious gun problem. You live in the country, so maybe you don't see it. But would a $200,000 to $300,000 armored vehicle to let you go into an area to take somebody else or that you might use that'll be sitting in a warehouse more important than putting finances, putting money into an issue where there's gun violence in our city? And Sam Austin, you voted against it, feather in your hat, and that's the way it should be. I don't know if you're old school, David. I don't know, what your thinking is. But I really don't think, and one of your councillors who was voted in again, I think majority of you guys are voted in by your friends, but that being said, Massini said it would be good for us to have that, and took an example of Africville where the shooting was, another unsolved shooting, a shooting was in the summer, and that our police force could go in there and take people out. That was his comment of why we would need that vehicle. So in closing here, I think you really need to look into the mirror and find out the problems in the city are more important than getting a vehicle, using the money on a vehicle to enhance protection that might be required. That I think if you had due diligence, a better police force wouldn't arise in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Hensbee, your comments to that?
As I stated earlier, we are a growing municipality. We've had a lot of growing pains, just for infrastructure-wise, but also comes with that with the social issues and crime issues. We have a lot of unsolved murders, but that's more of a reactive situation where we get there after the fact. What happens in a situation where maybe an active shooter or a hostage situation? We can't be naive. We have to be prepared for those types of situations in a growing municipality that we have. We have a lot more people coming in. We have a lot more issues coming in. We have a port city that we don't know how many illegal stuff may be going through our port in regards to, stolen vehicles to illegal drugs, whatever the case may be. Those are some of the things we as a port city got to be prepared for. But, to think that, we're not, the little Halifax, that no crime happens. I'm sorry that we've lost that innocence, I guess you could say, and we got to prepare ourselves for any particular situation that may occur in the future.
902-405-6000, 902-405-6000 is the number. Councillor Austin, very quickly, if you'd like to respond to that.
Yeah, so I think just for clarity as to where a vehicle like this would be used. I mean, because after École Polytechnique in Montreal and tragedies like that, policing around active shooters has changed dramatically. The training these days is to engage, because if you don't engage, people die, right, while you're marshalling and getting ready to go. Armored vehicle is never going to be the first vehicle on the scene, and in an active shooter situation, police have to engage these days, unfortunately, given where the realities are. So you're talking about a vehicle that's useful for someone barricaded type situation.
902-405-6000 is the number. Councillors on the Hot Seat continues after the break. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in a minute.
Thanks.
All right, welcome back. It's Councillors on the Hot Seat. He is Councillor Sam Austin. On the phone with us today is Councillor David Hensbee. The number is 902-405-6000. Your chance to chat with the councillors, just like Chris is going to do. Chris, how are you?
Not bad at all, thank you. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, we're as a highly overtaxed, in my opinion, resident of HRM, it's coming up to my favorite time of the year, budget deliberation time. I tuned in late to the show, and I heard that word again, stadium. Are you guys seriously going to look at that and debate that again?
I don't think you may have got the stadiums confused. They're talking about the permanent stadium on the Wanderers grounds, not the one not the CFL stadium.
Okay, I'm sorry, I came in wrong.
No, it's all good.
Okay, now this vehicle, that the armored vehicle, what's the cost on that?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Like I said, it's the first day back. I haven't had a chance to dig into it yet. But last time around, I think it was $500,000.
Yeah, Councillor Hensbee, do you know the price on it?
Not off the top of my head, but I think Sam's in the ballpark with it. I say that the CAO has already approved the acquisition of it, so it's within her spending limit.
Here, I can't believe it. Here we are. You haven't even started to deliberate the budget yet, and I ask you a question on a cost of something, and again, neither one of you know for sure. I mean, this is the
well, they
answer
haven't, Chris, and I'm not going to defend the councillors are here, but they haven't started deliberations yet, so how would they know the numbers?
But they talked about this before. And yeah, I think it was somewhere around $500,000. And you say the CAO has already approved it? We didn't hire the CAO. We hired you guys. All right. Do we have a neutered council? Who runs things down there? Is it staff or you guys?
Councillor Austin.
It's both.
It doesn't seem to be.
It is. It's both.
Really?
You know, I do have, like, when I did see this come across, and, you know, I haven't had a chance to talk to Kathy yet, but I was a little startled that this was was done without, given the past history on this, that it was done without it coming back to council.
Councillor Hensbee. Staff run the city, or does the council?
South End Christian know that the council do not have the ultimate authority he thinks that we have. Everything that we have to go through council. If we don't want to expend money, we got to ask for a staff report to validate the expenditure and stuff. We go through a budget debate, we have to go through that line by line. These items are debated. Recommendations come from staff. Not everything is approved by council, but there is a thing that is we don't have the ultimate control and authority as he thinks we have.
Well, it seems to me that you should have. That's what we hired you guys for, and we hired you to do a job. And most taxpayers agree with me, I think, that we don't think you guys have been doing a very good job. Staff has too much power. The CAO to be able to willy-nilly come out and spend $500,000 of our tax dollars without any acknowledgement to you guys about it at all. You've admitted that yourself. I mean, things have got to stop down there. You can't afford this. Deliberation, deliberate the budget. You deliberate, in my opinion, on how much can we squeeze the taxpayer, how much more money can we get out of the taxpayer for stuff that the taxpayer doesn't need or want. You got to do something about it and take a hold of the reins of this horse and ride it.
Well, Chris, I also invite you and any other person from the general public to come and participate during the budget process. We have a section in our budget deliberations for public participation. You can come and speak directly to council on any considerations of municipal affairs, municipal matters.
I'm going to take you up on that generous offer. I will be there at every single one of your deliberation meetings. Where is it posted? Are the dates set now so I can make my calendar?
If you want to send me an email, I wrote that in my January newsletter, so I can send you a link to that report.
Okay, very good. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. I have to ask the question about the CEO. If the CEO makes a decision, a financial decision in the scale of this vehicle, Sam, can council put a stop to that if you have a majority, or how does that work?
I don't know right now, right? Like, if we've already entered into a contract on or what the case may be. So HRM is an operation of about $1 billion now. Mm-hmm. Not everything can come through council, right? There's a whole lot of routine business out there that just you have to delegate to staff, right? Like, we can't be approving every $20,000 contract, for example. There has to be some delegation. The thing that I find just kind of like, that I was a little surprised at is that this kind of. And I guess in fairness to the CEO, the past controversy on this occurred before her time, so it might have hit her desk and just looked like a routine sort of equipment purchase and not having that whole context around it. But, in terms of like just kind of a political decision, I think given the past council debate that this should have come back to us rather than the CEO choosing to exercise her authority that she has on this. Like, I think it should have come to council.
Councillor Hensbee, can you change a CEO's decision like that?
Well, I don't know if we want to get into micromanagement, but the situation...
That's $400,000. I don't know if that's micromanagement.
But the issue, though, is maybe that depending on the terms of the contract that were signed, if there's a penalty clause, that we try to cancel the acquisition, is there still money we pay out? I don't know. I haven't seen the fine print of the contract itself.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. I appreciate yours. District 5 Councillor Sam Austin, as always a pleasure.
Thank you. Happy to be on.
And Hensbee, go Leafs, go.
Go Bruins. Go Bruins.
Thanks, and I appreciate your time. 902-405-6000 is the number. The reason why I rolled that number for you is after the news at the top of the hour, Blake is going to update us on what's going on. It's time for the open hour. Your chance, the first time, first official work Monday of the year for you to chat. My question to you is, with the Prime Minister poised to hand in his resignation today, is it enough to save the Liberal Party? I'm interested in your thoughts. Again, 902-405-6000. The Todd Veinotte Show continues after the news. All right, welcome back. What happens when Todd's away? Dan's here and the Prime Minister quits, apparently. At least that's the speculation, what's going to happen here in about 40 minutes' time. If you're just tuning in to the show, welcome and Happy New Year. I'm Dan Alstrand. Todd is away today. Big news coming out of Ottawa today. Doesn't get much bigger than this. The Prime Minister has called a news conference for 11:45 Atlantic time at Rideau College, where the speculation is he's going to tender his resignation to us as the electorate. So my question to you today is this. Lots of speculation that the Prime Minister is going to prorogue Parliament, which means he's effectively going to shut it down until sometime in March to allow the Liberal Party to find a new leader as we'll head into a new election. Anyway, my question to you today is this. With Justin Trudeau stepping down, and many of you who have regularly called this program, and I've listened to for the last, 2 years, nay, I say demanded that he resign and step down or be gone, is it enough to save the Liberal Party? If Justin Trudeau does what many are suggesting he's going to do in the next hour and resign, does that change the Liberal fortunes in this country? Does that make you reconsider where you're going to put your vote when we eventually get to the polls? And if it is the way to right the ship, so to speak, then who is the savior for the Liberal Party? Who will take over from Justin Trudeau to lead the Liberal Party into the next election and perhaps change the fortunes? Because the polls, you've read them, I've read them, we've all read them. We know that the PC party the Conservative Party has a massive lead in all of the polling that I've seen. Some as high as more than 20 points. Who's the savior? Is it Chrystia Freeland? Is it Mark Carney? Is it Sean Casey? Is it Anita Anand? Or is it someone else? Or, conversely, is it just way too late? 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Let's get to the phone lines, and we welcome Mike to the show. Mike, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you today?
I am well. What's on your mind?
Well, after that last segment, I applaud Chris, and I hope he does attend all those meetings. He sounds like the right guy. Why would if you owned a company, Dan,
yep,
and you had a second in charge, would you give them carte blanche to write any check that you wanted, that they wanted, or felt like they should do?
Well, then that's why I kind of challenged Councillor Hensbee when he said it would be micromanaging. $400,000, in my opinion, isn't micromanaging.
And you know it's not even 400. It's up over 500 now. If it was 500 a year ago, it's plus. Anyway, I just thought that was really poor. Like anybody, that should be written in that person's contract that they can do a certain amount, maybe for a number, say they can go up to 100,000 on a check writing, but after that, that's ridiculous. Now, as far as Justin Trudeau goes, this isn't what Canadians want. I don't want him to resign. I want an election. I want him out of there, not by resignation, but by, the people firing him. And
isn't that kind of what's happening though, Mike? I mean, he was going to run, and now he's not.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but what happens is all this stuff that you just talked about earlier about him. If he prorogues the whole thing, then. And I believe that Singh and him had conversations before, because all of a sudden on Friday afternoon when everything's shutting down, all of a sudden Singh says, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna, we're getting rid of Trudeau." And isn't it funny that, all of a sudden now he's talking about a resignation, and the guy's going to get his pension based on all this setup right now. So it doesn't matter what he does. But I don't want the Liberals. I watched that interview with Peterson, and the thing is that it's not up to the public of Canada to wait till the Liberals get their shit together, as Pierre Poilievre said in that interview. We know what the Liberal Party has done, and if they change the leader, all the same clowns are still in the background that held this guy up and agreed with everything he's done to this country.
So at the end of the day, you're going to get your wish anyway, right, Mike?
Yeah, but it's just delaying the inevitable.
Well, it's going to delay anyway,
We know that
right?
the Liberals aren't going to win this next election. We know that for 100%, and neither are the NDP. So these guys are just holding us hostage for the sake of buying some more time, people getting pensions. Like it's all crap. This, we want that guy out of there, and we want a new government to start running this country properly. That's what the public wants. It's we're just being held hostage again in a different form.
Mike, I appreciate
my opinion anyway, Dan.
and I appreciate that opinion, Mike. Have a good one.
Yep. Have a good day.
902-405-6000. Mike speaking for y'all. Is he? That we want an election and we don't want Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign, and we want to have him in the stock so we can throw apples and rotten vegetables at him? I know I'm probably using the wrong analogy, but or is this a mission accomplished? I've been listening to Todd Veinotte show, like most of you do, for a long time, and I've been listening to this repeatedly. People saying, he's got to go, and now he's going and it's not good enough. I don't understand. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Michael to the program. Michael, how are you?
Not too bad. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
Well, I just watched that other clown south of the border make a comment in regards to us being the 51st state and all our resources and everything could be used and everything would be beautiful again. And at the same time, you got Wayne Gretzky and those guys that should be ashamed to death of themselves that were appointed to the Order of Canada down there licking his boots. Dan, for the ordinary people and the lack of leadership we got right now in this country, we're in a bad way. And for the life of me, why some of those older gentlemen and ladies can't see after all these years. Yeah, yes, right now we need a change, but no, we don't need Mark Carney. Mark Carney was sent over to Britain to be the exchequer. Then he got caught in the boys' club, and he's back to Canada now. And then you had who was it? Christy Freeland, and she's looking for that application or opening that's on the Little Johnsons on television. Then we're in bad shape if some leader don't step forward. I don't know where she's all heading, but I won't be voting for none of them. I'll be voting for Judme Singh and the NDP and something I worked for all my life. And the rest of them can vote for who they want, because if they're not tired of getting kicked in the arse by now, they'll never be tired. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thanks, Michael. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. The first open hour of the week, Trudeau resignation. Is this what we wanted? Is this what we needed? Is this what you wanted or needed? 902-405-6000. Lines are open. We're back after the break. Welcome back. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm in for Todd. I'm Dan Alstrand. The open hour continues. The telephone lines, there's a few available if you want to get on now. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Speculation is continuing to roll as we work our way towards the scheduled news conference at 11:45 Atlantic time. The Prime Minister has called a hastily called news conference, as we call it in the business, where many are suggesting that he is going to resign as the leader of the Liberal Party and I guess as the Prime Minister of the country. My question to you is this. Do you agree with this decision? Because many of you don't. Many of you want him to run and be defeated at the polls. And does this do anything to improve your opinion of the Liberal Party of Canada? 902-405-6000. Got a couple of emails to pass along. This one from Lee. It says, people were saying he's got to go, meaning we wanted an election to turf him. Trudeau stepping down is a coward move. The carbon tax and the terrible state of the country is due to many of Trudeau's policies. If he thinks he's right, he should put it to the ballot, not tuck tail and run. That one from Lee. It says, this one from Gordon says, hi, Dan. If you asked if we would vote Liberal again if Justin steps down, not me. As far as I'm concerned, they all knew about the crooked things he's been up to. This is his opinion. All of the lies, all of the, scandals, all of the backroom deals, the Lavalin affair, the Wee scandal, the $400 million slush fund. They're all guilty. When things were good, they wanted him in there, and now things are bad, so they're kicking him out as they should. It'll be a long time before I vote Liberal again, if they ever vote Liberal again. As far as I see it, all of them should go. Every single one of them. Even the innocent ones, just clean house, put new people in there, because it's just a big boys club as far as I'm concerned. Most of them should be put in jail, and if you and I were guilty of half the things they done, we'd be in jail. That from Gordon. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Let's go back to the phone lines, and we welcome George to the program. George, how are you?
Morning. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
Oh, nothing. Like Lee and that last email guy pretty much summed up what I said. Look, I'm glad Trudeau's gone, but that carbon tax, that's the albatross around the Liberal Party's neck from coast to coast to coast. People see and they hate it. Every time you gas up, all your transportation costs, everything. That is the worst policy ever enacted by a federal government in Canada's history, and people are just fed up with it.
George, let me ask you this question. I don't mean to cut you off, George, but let me ask you this question.
No.
If Trudeau resigns, and all indications are that he is, and they appoint a new leader of the Liberal Party of Canada today, and that person, whomever it is, says, as of tomorrow, the carbon tax is gone, does that change your opinion at all?
It would be what they should have done. Like this carbon tax, like for us here in Nova Scotia, we pay it at the pumps. Other provinces, I don't know, the industry got cap and trade, so the people don't see it. Like, it's just, I don't know.
So
it'll make me happier if they take it off, of course.
But it's not going to change the fortunes, right? You think that it's already far too gone?
No, they're all like you even said, like all the scandals and this and that and everything else. And I want Michael, the second Michael, Jagmeet Singh voted 6 or 7 times to keep that carbon tax with Justin Trudeau. He propped him up over. So he's guilty too. But anyway, I just hope, like, it seems to me like people are working. The more they work, the more they're paying. And you cannot get ahead. It's hard for people to get ahead with taxes on tax on tax on tax. And the carbon tax is driving the price of everything up. And that's all your rents, because it costs more to build those places. It costs more to heat them. And you're paying property taxes on them. Look, it's just a vicious cycle, man. I'm just glad he's gone. Very much so.
George, appreciate it, man.
Okay, buddy.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Does it change anything? If with Justin Trudeau, 3/4 of the way out the door, maybe 7/8 of the way out the door, tomorrow there'll be perhaps an interim leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. Soon there will be a new leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. Does it matter? Or is it that ship sailed a long time ago? Is there anybody out there, in your opinion, that can change the fortunes of the Liberal Party whenever we go to the polls? And by all indications, that's still probably going to happen in the first half, if not the first quarter of this year. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Let's welcome, Rick, I haven't talked to you for a while. How are you?
Good, man. You?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Well, just a couple of things. First off, Michael from Cape Breton calls with this kind of the same message all the time, and we understand he's a diehard NDP. Mm-hmm. And I used to be a diehard NDP, but the NDP party left me. I didn't leave the NDP party.
When did it leave you, Rick?
Well, how did they leave me?
No. When did they leave you?
When they got rid of Thomas Mulcair.
Okay. Yep.
Who I thought was one of the best politicians, next to Jack Layton and Ed Broadbent that, they ever had. Anyway, so from that point on, I gave up on him. But anyway, my problem today is not federal or even provincial. It's municipal.
Okay.
And I just checked. The Public Gardens in Halifax is a venerable, place. Mm-hmm. In the same way, Sullivan's Pond Park in Dartmouth, and I live in Dartmouth, so I have a strong feeling for that.
Sure.
And what is going on in the Halifax Public Gardens is properly the bicycles and electric scooters are banned. You're not allowed to even bring them in to the public gardens. Whereas in Dartmouth, they put I don't know how much it costs, a bike lane right through Sullivan's Pond Park, and electric scooters are not only permitted, they're encouraged. And the people that are walking, especially in the summer when the rental scooter market is at its peak, people who really don't even know how to drive those scooters, although they're pretty easy to drive, go spinning around the park, and they come from behind. And pedestrians who, really should be the top priority of our political masters here are at severe risk. If you just make a wrong move, if you just step to the side when one of these is going by, you're going to get smoked. It's just a matter of time before it happens. So I'd like to see this disparity changed and have the scooters. And I know we can't ban bicycles from their own bike lanes that the city spent a good fortune on to try and, I don't know. If you saw where the bike lanes were put and you realize that it was like, I just don't understand it. They could have easily just put a bike lane on the road. It did not have to cut through the park. But it just goes to show you what, what goes on behind closed doors. Anyway, that's my rant.
Rick, I appreciate it, sir.
Okay.
902-405-6000. Let's grab Bill real quick. Bill, how are you?
Bill, real quick. Okay. Yeah, we're okay. Okay. Anyway, I started off to talk about what's causing all our problems. I'll start off with I had a great New Year's Day at Halifax City Hall.
You went to the levee.
The levee.
Yep.
I mean, all of the aldermen were lined up there to shake your hands. This was a class act. And then inside, you had the nice little piano player there. But the food wasn't just putting the food out. It was the way it was presented. I mean, that was just a real class act. And then, of course, I made the rounds with Lieutenant Governors and the other ones and so on. But the City Hall one was supreme. I have to say that. Now, as far as what I originally started off when the councils were there, there's one major problem that's causing practically all of our problems, and the city's not going to be able to do much about it, and neither is the province. They're going to have the Liberals going to have it's federal is the problem. And the problem is that they're letting too many immigrants come into this country, and it's affecting all of their problems just about that we're experiencing now. So that's my rant today, for what it's worth. What do you think?
Bill, I always appreciate your call, and I appreciate you sending laurels to the City Hall.
Okay.
Have a good one. Man. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. In just a quick programming note, around 11:45, we're going to break away from the open hours so we can bring you the news conference with the Prime Minister, where the speculation is he's going to resign, so you can all hear it live. Vanessa's working very busily behind the scenes to make all that happen. And we're going to get a little bit of overtime today because I don't want to rob you of your opinion to react to what the Prime Minister says. So after the Prime Minister is done speaking, we will continue with the open hour, at least for a little bit, so you get a chance to react to what you hear. The question on the table today, with the apparent resignation of Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister, is there any way that saves the Liberal Party, or does it even matter? Again, 902-405-6000. We're back after the news. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show, everyone. Dan Olstran along with you here on a Monday, and there's a little bit of news happening today, and it's going to have a pretty significant impact across the country. So we're kind of doing things on the fly here on the Todd Veinotte Show. It is the open hour. The lines are open, 902-405-6000. The Prime Minister is expected to stand in front of a podium here in about 10 minutes' time, and we will take you to Ottawa to catch that news conference in its entirety. And then at the other side of it, we're going to continue with the open hour so that you can listen to what he had to say, and I'm interested in your reactions. We're also going to try and reach out to get some reaction from Laurie Turnbull, a political scientist at Dalhousie University, about this latest change and what it means for the country. So keep your radio locked right here. Keep your stream right here. And you don't have to go anywhere else and try and find this news conference. We'll bring it to you right here live. 902-405-6000 is the number. That's 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Jamie to the program. Jamie, thanks very much for holding.
Oh, hey, no sweat. How are you today?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Good. Well, a couple of things. Trudeau's resignation, just for me personally, not speaking for anybody else, but I don't think any less than a prison sentence would satisfy me for all of the lies and manipulation and the corruption. And that's not, I wouldn't say he's out of the woods yet. When the committees come up with what's been really happening behind the scenes, it's going to be interesting to see the outcome. In any case, the reason for my initial call was when you had the councillors on, I wanted to pose something to them, and I don't know whether anybody's really thought about this, but whenever we're drawing up legislation and bylaws and any kind of rules at any kind of government level, my belief is that those laws should come with an end date, because I'm not omniscient and I can't see 40 years down the road or 20 years down the road. If I could, I'd be a billionaire already, right? If anybody could, they'd be very wealthy, or at least well off. So because we're not omnipotent and because we're not omniscient, our rules today are responding to a rule or to a problem that exists today. In 20 years or 10 years or 50 years, that rule may no longer be applicable,
right,
nor may it be necessary, right, and it just may be another rule on the books that doesn't need to be there, that may be squashing somebody's hopes and dreams,
No, I get it. That kind of makes sense.
Every single rule should have a revisit date. And if the rule still, if we still want the rule in 20 years or 30 years or 5 years, let's revisit the rule and reenact it. But in every single rule and every level of government should have an end date, and which would be force us to revisit things and get rid of rules that are no longer necessary.
Makes a lot of sense, Jamie.
I hope they do it. They won't, but I hope they do.
Right? We can hope.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that anybody's even thought of this. To me, it should be mandatory because we have tons of rules out there right now that really and truly I feel are holding many people in our city back. Rules with development and regulations on doing this or that. I believe that what we're about to see south of the border is going to be one of the most refreshing things I've seen in my lifetime with this Doge that's going on down there, and hopefully they get rid of literally half of the government. When the gentleman took over Twitter or X or what it was or whatever it was, I'm not on either, but I think you get rid of 80% of the employees, and I genuinely hope he does that in the government, which will literally force us to do the same, because if we don't, and they find themselves in a lowered tax environment as a result of lower costs of running the country, then we will be killed, because our business will simply leave us and go south because of the lower taxation.
Jamie, what do you say to the people that are going to lose their job? They're good paying jobs.
I'm not interested in them. If their job, to be honest, I'm not interested in them. If their job is not necessary to do, then why don't they have guilt every day about going to work and taking my tax dollars for whatever level of productivity they bring to the table, or whatever level of impediment that they bring to the table. So I'm not the least bit concerned about government workers that are unnecessary, that find
Jamie,
out that they're unnecessary through termination.
Who gets to decide if they're necessary or not?
You know what? I don't think I'm the guy for that, because I think 80% of them would be gone, and I would just eliminate entire departments, and I'd have to pick the departments. But if we look at what's going on, there's a few things that are going on right now, and one of them is happening in Argentina. And for anybody that's watching what's going in Argentina, and certainly the end hasn't been written yet, but the gentleman down there, I believe, got rid of 38,000 regulations. And he's got a department of deregulation that he set up, and between 1 and 5 regulations get removed every single day, and that's to release the shackles from their population and allow them to thrive, and allow capital to come back in as pure a form as it can, and the results of which I believe will be spectacular.
Jamie, I don't want to argue with you, but doesn't Argentina have 166% inflation?
Yeah, well, the new guy didn't cause that. It was actually much more than that. I believe they had 54% inflation per month at the peak. So that's about 600% inflation, and I think he's got it down to 4% per month right now, and that will drop to almost zero. And the reason it's dropping to almost zero is he's ended the money printing. Milton Friedman maintains it. For anybody that's into economics, Milton Friedman maintains that all inflation is caused by deficit spending. And
well, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I'm not going to ever disagree with you with that. I mean, you print money, there's nothing to back it. You're going to create inflation. That being said, if you eliminate, I'm just throwing a number out there, 1 million good-paying jobs, then where do those people go? And how do they eat?
Not my problem.
Well, it is your problem, because they're going to go on to social assistance, aren't they not?
Why? Well, then why aren't they sending me a letter every day explaining to me why they want my money to live their lifestyle while not offering me really any return on my investment?
Well, okay. Maybe that's the way it works in your world. Anyway, Jamie, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
902-405-6000. Jamie wants a letter from everybody explaining what they do every day for their job that works in the public service. A wise person once told me that there are two people in this world. Those are those that work in the public service and those that are jealous of the public service. There isn't a single person, and I'm not going to speak for Jamie, but there isn't many people, I'll say, in this world that if that phone rings right now and it's a level of government and saying, hey, Dan, we want you to come and do the government of, I don't know, Roby Street land, communications or talk show, we're going to pay you $300,000 a year. Am I saying no to that? We're going to stop and take a break because we're waiting for the Prime Minister to appear before a podium at the Rideau Cottage in Ottawa. We're going to take that news conference in its entirety, so we're going to get this break out of the way so that we pay our bills. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand on what could be a historic day. Every day is a historic day, isn't it? But this one could be above mention. This will be one of those, when we do the year-enders at the end of 2025, we'll be at the top of the list. And what I'm making light of course, is anytime now we're expected to see the Prime Minister of Canada and the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, Justin Trudeau, appear before a mic podium in front of Rideau College, a scene that we were very familiar with when we were going through the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, when he had what was daily news conferences from that front porch. So he's going to join us here very shortly, and we're going to take the news conference in its entirety so that you can listen to the words and formulate your own opinion. And then we're going to, after we take some commercial messages, of course, then we're going to continue the open hour on the other side of this so that we can get your thoughts and your reaction to the big news of the day. If you're just tuning in and you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, the rumors started last night and have rolled through the morning today. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau back now from his vacation in BC. I understand he did some skiing in the snow, and how ironic is that, given his father's walk in the snow speech of those many years ago. Is back. He's back at home and said that he was going to reflect on his political future when he took his Christmas break. And now he is set to make an announcement, a proclamation. He's going to chat, let's say, about that future as we sit here and we wait for the Prime Minister to make his way to the podium here at Rideau College. I'm watching the television or the feeds from Veinotte College out of the corner of my eye. It's been a while since I've done this kind of play-by-play. Maybe a Gareth McDonald will have me on and he can show me the ropes on this. But anyway, as I mentioned, we're going to take this news conference in its entirety. And on the other side of it, we're going to open up the telephone lines. We've also reached out to a good friend of the show and Dalhousie University political scientist Laurie Turnbull will be joining us around 12:30 today to give us sort of the nuts and bolts of what this announcement is, how we came to this point, and what happens next. Because I'm, to be honest, I'm not really sure. Haven't seen this happen a lot in my time sitting in the chair, where a prime minister, a sitting prime minister, has got up and resigned. I stand to be corrected, but I think we go back as far as I know that Brian Mulroney did it, and I'm not sure. Did Jean Chrétien do it? I can't remember. But anyway, we will be watching that very closely, and that is the bit of the news of the day. Let's see if we can squeeze a call in here, Vanessa, before we get to the Prime Minister. Joe, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What's your thoughts on the news of the day today?
I think it's fantastic if he steps down. And also the NDP party should step back. And the rapid growth in Canada, Nova Scotia especially, should slow down with the Conservative Party and handle what is at hand right now.
So there are some out there, Joe, that wanted Prime Minister Trudeau to stay on so that we could throw rotten apples at him at the polls. Did you want that, or did you want him just to go away?
It has to stop. So many lives have been affected. What he has taken on with greed and control has started almost 20 years ago with the expansion and the rapid growth within the provinces. And it's affected us emotionally, financially, our taxes, way of living for a lot of people. You know, growth is wonderful, but rapid growth and control and the uncontrolled immigration, it's very sad. It's a sad day, and nobody should be retaliating with violence. I personally myself lost my husband in the midst of all this because of the rapid growth. So everyone should be stepping back and hoping that the Conservative Party can calm things down and bring Canada back to the peaceful, accepting, slow growth country that we always been.
Joe, I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. We'll keep the telephone lines open throughout the next hour or so to get your thoughts on this. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're awaiting the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, who was called, as we like to call it in the business, a hastily called news conference to make an announcement today. The speculation is that he has reflected during his vacation and that he is set to announce that he will step down as the leader of the Liberal Party, which of course will set off a leadership contest in our country. Also, a number of reports this morning that the Prime Minister has already had a conversation with the Governor General, Mary Simon, and will prorogue Parliament until March, I think 26th is the date that's been floated around. So that means the business of the House of Commons will cease as the Liberals begin their search for a new leader to lead them into the next election. And there'll be no mode. Is that the word I'm looking for? No method for a non-confidence motion or anything along those lines to come forth until the 26th of March when this prorogation ends. Now, these dates and times are, of course, have not been confirmed, but they are being widely reported that the Parliament will be prorogued until the 26th of March and that the Prime Minister will step down in a moment's time here as the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. 902-405-6000 is the number. That's 902-405-6000. A couple of emails during the show today I'd like to pass along. This one from Paul, and it says, Dan, it said that the fish rots from the head first, but eventually the entire fish is no good. There's been corruption at the highest levels of the Liberal Party for years now. The entire fish needs to be tossed. And that comes to us from Paul. This one says, I don't usually agree with Sean, but hearing him say no to that $500,000 vehicle makes a lot of sense. The $500,000 vehicle that we're talking about is there's been a request from Halifax Regional Police to get an armored vehicle for the force. It's to be in the budget, but from what Councillor Sam Austin said, it already may have been approved by the CAO, which is always kind of a puzzle to me. I get the CAO has some discretionary spending, but that's a big expenditure, and it's a contentious expenditure. If you remember the debate that we had last time when this was defeated, and rather soundly at council said no, but we've got a new council now. The request came in through the police budget, through the police board of police commissioners, I think, and the CAO apparently has approved this. But anyway, to go on with our email, the vehicle will never be first on the scene, will pretty much be useless in most scenarios that we encounter, unless you have some big hostage scenario where you need the bust in and kick butt. I did some editing there. This will be the last vehicle that will help the police. This email also, we're talking about Justin Trudeau. Nonsense. Why did Trudeau hire 100,000 new government workers? What was the benefit of these workers? What are they doing? What we couldn't have done a couple of years ago, Dan? That's a response to my question that there are two people in the world. There's people that work in the public service and those that are jealous of it. And I will certainly like to hear from somebody that would turn down a government job today. I don't think there's many of us that would turn down if that phone rang, as I mentioned before the break. That being said, the news of the day that we're waiting on here is Justin Trudeau is getting set to make an announcement. This is very on message for the Prime Minister. I know I keep hearkening back to when we used to do this. This is what we call in the business filling time, when we're waiting for something to happen. This harkens back to when we used to do these news conferences, when Mr. Howe sat in this chair or other talk show hosts sat in this chair, and we would wait, and we would wait, and the Prime Minister would set a time, and he would be late every time. It's like he's trying to get that last dig in before he's done for his career. He's like, Dan, I'm gonna do an 11:45, but because I know Dan's in today for Todd, and by the way, Todd will be back tomorrow. I'm gonna make him wait. I'm already 10 minutes late. Let's another 10 minutes. So I think what we're gonna do here, I think I've got one more email, and then I think we will take another break to see if we can get some commercials done. Wait, Vanessa's looking at... Nope, never mind. I think what I'll do is I'll read this email. It said, hey, Dan, no bureaucrats. Maybe your last caller would want us to have a government like they do in Haiti or perhaps some other non-governed country. He's totally wrong. His version of Canada would be a disaster. And that is from Don. Vanessa, what we're going to do is we'll take another break here and we'll come back. If we have time, we'll do the news. And if the news conference happens before the news or during the news, then we'll take it then. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes.
Every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister. I've been inspired by the resilience, the generosity, and the determination of Canadians. It is the driving force of every single day I have the privilege of serving in this office. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to strengthen and grow the middle class. Why we rallied to support each other through the pandemic, to advance reconciliation, to defend free trade on this continent, to stand strong with Ukraine and our democracy, and to fight climate change and get our economy ready for the future. We are at a critical moment in the world. Mes chers Canadiens,
dear Canadians, every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister, inspired by the resilience, the generosity, and the determination that characterizes us as Canadians. And this is what motivates me every day where I have the privilege of serving in this position. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to reinforce the middle class, why we mobilized as Canadians to support each other during the pandemic, to move forward reconciliation, to defend free trade on our continent, for our unwavering support of Ukraine and democracy, and to fight against climate change and prepare the economy of the future. We are truly going through a critical time in the world.
My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians. I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. Mes chers amis,
my dear friends, as you know, I'm a fighter. Inside, I've always fought because I care deeply about Canadians, and I will always be motivated by their best interest. And the fact is that even with all the efforts to get through it, the Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest minority session in the history of our country, which is why this morning I met with the Governor-General to let her know that we needed a new parliamentary session. And she acquiesced to my request, and the House will be prorogued until March 24th. During the holidays, I also had the opportunity to think and to have long conversations with my family as to our future. Throughout my career, all these successes that I've had personally is due to their support and their encouragement. So last night, during dinner, I shared with my children the decision that I'm sharing with you all today. I intend to resign from my position as leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister once the party has chosen its next leader after a national, robust, rigorous, and a competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the party to start that process. The country deserves a clear and real choice during the next elections. It has become obvious for me that if I have to focus on internal battles, I cannot be the best option during those elections. The Liberal Party of Canada is an important institution in the history of our great country and in our democracy. A new Prime Minister and leader of the party will carry the values and ideas of the Liberal Party in the next elections. I'm looking forward to watching that process in the following months. We were elected for the third time in 2021 to reinforce the economy after the pandemic and progress the interests of Canada in a complex world. And that's exactly what I will continue to do, what we will continue to do for Canadians.
The Liberal Party of Canada is an important institution in the history of our great country and democracy. A new Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party will carry its values and ideals into that next election. I'm excited to see the process unfold in the months ahead. We were elected for the third time in 2021 to strengthen the economy post-pandemic and advance Canada's interests in a complicated world. And that is exactly the job that I and we will continue to do for Canadians. Merci beaucoup, mes amis.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Much,
and I'll go to questions, starting with Laurence Martin, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau.
Laurence Martin, Radio-Canada. Hello, Mr. Trudeau. You wanted to have this fight against Pierre Poilievre. Internal fights, we've had them in your party for months. Why are you deciding to abdicate now? What made you change your mind? As you know, I'm not someone who backs down very easily in a fight, especially such an important fight for our party and for our country. But I do this job because the interest of Canadians and the well-being of our country and our democracy is important to me. And it's become clear that I cannot be the leader in the next elections because of internal battles.
As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Vous êtes au pouvoir depuis près de 10 ans. Le Canada a changé avec votre gouvernement.
Almost 10 years. Canada has changed under your government. If there is one thing that you did that you're very proud of, I know there's many, but maybe one and maybe a regret as well. Answer. In 2015, we were elected on a promise of working for the middle class in this country, and that's what we were able to do. We've reduced poverty. We've helped families enormously. We created an economy that works for many more people and preparing for a future that is more digital and where climate change will have a greater impact. We did huge amounts of work with Canadians, and Canada is better because of the work that we've all done over the past few years. A regret? I continue thinking that if our electoral system had been changed so that people can put a first, second, and third choice on their ticket, parties would spend more time looking at what they have in common to be second or third choice rather than seeing polarization, but I could not unilaterally change our voting method in this country.
We got elected in 2015 to fight for the middle class, and that's exactly what we've done over the past years. We reduced their taxes, we increased the benefits to families, we made sure the economy was focused on working for everyone and not just a few, and that has changed. That has dropped poverty rates in Canada, that has brought more people into the workforce, that has moved us forward on reconciliation in a way that has deeply improved the opportunities and success of Canadians despite the incredibly difficult times the world is going through right now. There's lots more work to be done, and I know that this party and this country and Canadians will keep doing it. If I have one regret, particularly as we approach this election, well, there are probably many regrets that I will think of, but I do wish that we'd been able to change the way we elect our governments in this country so that people could simply choose a second choice or a third choice on the same ballot, so that parties would spend more time trying to be people's second or third choices, and people would have been looking for things they have in common instead of trying to polarize and divide Canadians against each other. I think in this time, figuring out how to pull together and find common ground remains something that is really important for democracies. But I could not change unilaterally without support of other parties our electoral system. That wouldn't have been responsible.
Prochaine question. Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. Prime Minister, up until 3 weeks ago, you were intending to stay, and it seems that the event 3 weeks ago of Ms. Freeland coming out and saying you were firing her as your finance minister was the catalyst that brought us here today. So can you explain your side of what happened there?
Chrystia has been by my side for close to 10 years now. She has been an incredible political partner through just about everything we have done as a government and as a party over the past decade. I had really hoped that she would agree to continue as my Deputy Prime Minister and take on one of the most important files that not just this government but this country is facing, but she chose otherwise. In regards to what actually happened, I am not someone who's in the habit of sharing private conversations. Chrystia
has been for almost 10 years now. By my side as a political partner who's been essential in everything we've achieved as a government and as a party. I really would have liked had she chosen to continue as my Vice Prime Minister, and had she taken one of the most significant files that Canadians and our government will face in the future from before the elections, but she didn't want to. But in terms of the details, I'm not somebody who shares the details of private conversations.
About the Liberal Party as an institution and the internal battles right now, but I'm wondering if you feel that another leader will have more success than you will at beating Pierre Poilievre in the next campaign.
Pierre Poilievre's vision for this country is not the right one for Canadians. Stopping the fight against climate change doesn't make sense. Backing off on the values and strength in diversity that Canada has always worked to pull itself together on is not the right path for the country. Attacking journalists, the CBC institutions, that's not what Canadians need in this moment. We need an ambitious, optimistic view of the future, and Pierre Poilievre is not offering that. And I look forward to the fight as progressives across this country stand up for the kind of vision for a better country that Canadians have always carried, despite the tremendous pressures around the world to think smaller, to veer towards the hard right, and to be less ambitious for what we can be and do as a country when the world really needs Canada.
That's not an answer, though. Yes or no? Is there another leader that could beat him?
Absolutely.
Sur le leader?
Oui.
Est-ce que vous
Pierre Poilievre.
en français, s'il vous plaît, merci.
In French, please. Pierre Poilievre has a profoundly small vision and erroneous for this country. If we were even to accept he has a vision to go back on fundamental rights and stop the defense or the fight against climate change, or to not invest in a greener economy or more inclusive economy, always looking for division between Canadians rather than bringing people together to face the future with optimism and ambitious. It's not the right choice for Canadians. And I look forward to continue to be part of a progressive movement that will look for a brighter future for Canadians based on optimism and the work that Canadians have always done to build a better world.
Hélène Buzetti, les groupes d'information. Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau.
Hello, Mr. Trudeau. 16 years ago, in December 2008, Stephen Harper broke Parliament to avoid a no-confidence vote that he knew he was going to lose because the three opposition parties were going to vote against him. Exactly like the situation in which you find yourself today. At the time, Stéphane Dion had said, and I quote, that this was against the Constitution, an affront to democracy. So I'd like to know why what was bad for Conservatives of Stephen Harper should be good for the Liberals of Justin Trudeau. The Governor General in 2008 had correctly concluded that the House had just given their confidence formally to the Harper government, regardless of a signed letter, which was a political document. The voice of the House counts. Therefore, before stopping work at the House before the holidays, we had 3 no-confidence votes, 3 confidence votes. And we will have to retest the confidence of the House in March to get through the necessary budget elements to make the government work.
In 2008, the Governor General correctly concluded that because the very last times in the previous weeks that the confidence of the House had been tested, it had passed that confidence test, Stephen Harper continued to have the confidence of the House. And it actually would bear out because as soon as they came back from the prorogation, Stephen Harper won a confidence vote once again. So a political document or political speeches doesn't carry the kind of weight that winning a confidence vote means. But this prorogation will take us only into March, and there will be confidence votes in March in the passing of supply that will allow Parliament to weigh in on confidence in a way that is entirely in keeping with all the principles of democracy and the workings of our strong institutions.
Mais avec respect, Monsieur Trudeau, y a-t-il pas
With
quelque chose
respect,
de
Mr. Trudeau, isn't there something anti-democratic of suspending the possibility of Parliament of expressing its no confidence? The time it takes for your party to find its savior, shouldn't it just refer to the electors, the voters, and trigger an election? Hélène, you've very clearly seen, like everybody in the parliamentary press, the extent to which Parliament hasn't been working for the past few months. We're stuck in this question of privilege. There are obstruction motions constantly, and we've accomplished very little during the past few months in Parliament. Now, Parliament needs a reset. It needs to calm itself down, to get back to work for Canadians and not doing little politics constantly, which is what we're seeing from the Conservatives. So this reset has two elements to it. First, a prorogation, so that we can start anew with a fresh approach to Parliament. And yes, the Liberal Party will go through a leadership race because I expect that if I don't lead the party during the next elections, the polarization that we're currently seeing in Parliament should also calm down. So Canadians need a Parliament that works, particularly in this complex times, and these two elements will represent the reset that's necessary for Parliament. Can you do this in English? But tell me why not an election as well?
Parliamentary press gallery, and anyone who's been watching politics closely over the past months will know that Parliament has been entirely seized by obstruction and filibustering and a total lack of productivity over the past few months. We are right now the longest serving minority government in history, and it's time for a reset. It's time for the temperature to come down, for the people to have a fresh start in Parliament, to be able to navigate through these complex times, both domestically and internationally. And the reset that we have is actually two parts. One is the prorogation, but the other part is recognizing that removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now in the House and in Canadian politics, and allow people to actually focus on serving Canadians in this House and with their work the way Canadians deserve.
On va prendre une dernière question.
One last question.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Stephanie Taylor with the National Post. Given, as you just said, there's going to be confidence votes in March, opposition parties have said they are prepared to bring down your government. What kind of chances do you think you are leaving to your successor, given that there will only be mere weeks for them to introduce themselves to Canadians before heading into an election, potentially?
I have a tremendous amount of confidence in both Canadians and in parliamentarians' interest in serving Canadians in the right way. We're in a minority government right now, and there hasn't been an active leadership in a minority government in more than 50 years in this country. And there is always going to be the challenge of having a leadership race while a parliament would face confidence votes in the course of delivering supply to the government. So this is something that we're going to navigate through, but I truly feel that removing the contention around my own continued leadership is an opportunity to bring the temperature down, have a government that will focus on the complex issues that are coming forward in the coming months, while the party gets to have a full national process that brings in people from right across the country and makes a determination about the best person to carry the progressive liberal standard into the next election.
Can you clarify whether ministers who would like to campaign for your job will have to step out of cabinet? And how can the Liberal government be in a position to protect Canadian businesses and Canadians from the threat of tariffs from incoming President Donald Trump when members of the government are going to be focused on who's going to be taking your job?
The government will still, and the cabinet will still be very much focused on doing the job that Canadians elected us to do in 2021, which is fight for their interests, stand up for their well-being, and make sure that they are good and that Canadians are protected and strong. There will be a leadership process and the rules will unfold over the coming weeks. But I can assure you that the tools and the need to stand up for Canadians, to protect Canadians in their interests and continue to fight for the economy is something that everyone in this government will be singularly focused on.
I can mention that obviously the rules and conditions of the Liberal Party leadership will be discussed in the following weeks, but the government that was elected to protect Canadians and their interests in a very complex world and was elected most recently in 2021 will continue this work with focus and singular emphasis on what is in the interest of Canadians, while the party does what it needs to have a leadership process. Thank you. This concludes the press conference today. Thank you. Thank you.
The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. Two big news items that came out of that news conference. Of course, the first one is that he is stepping down as the leader of the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister of the country. He said he had a chat with his family last night and told his children that he had come to that decision. He said he would stay on until the Liberal Party picks a new leader, and the rules for that contest are yet to be determined. A question asked about cabinet ministers. We know Dominic LeBlanc's name has been kicked around with that. If their work's going to continue while the leadership contest is underway, we'll get the clarification on the rules as the days and the weeks move ahead. The Prime Minister, in resigning, said this: if I'm having to fight internal battles, then I can't be the best option during an election. Now, I don't want to read anything into that, but that kind of feels like he threw the caucus under the bus, saying, I can't fight an election if everybody keeps asking me to resign. That's the feeling that I got from that. When asked what his biggest regret was during his almost 10 years as Prime Minister of the country, proportional representation, which was interesting to me because he ran his first campaign on changing the way Canadians vote. And he said that he couldn't do that unilaterally. So there's lots to unpackage there. What we're going to do is we're going to stop down. We're going to forego the news at 12:30. We're going to take some commercial break here. When we come back, Lori Turnbull from Dalhousie University will be joining us to get her thoughts on what we've just seen and what we've just heard. And then I'm going to open up those phone lines for you. It's official now. The Prime Minister is stepping down. Big news day today. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. Vanessa and I were just chatting on the during the break there after that whopper of a news conference, and this isn't the day that I woke up expecting today. I was like, oh, geez, I wonder what we're going to lead with today. Oh, the best laid plans. Anyway, I'm sure Todd's probably kicking himself in the posterior that he had to take the day off today because these are the days that are fun. This is kind of what we do, right? If you just listened to the news conference, you heard all the same things that I did and our next guest heard. We're very pleased to welcome to the program from Dalhousie University and good friend of this program, Lori Turnbull. Lori, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, did you expect to see this on a Monday?
Maybe. I started to, because when you saw that the caucus meetings were scheduled for Monday and Tuesday and the big one on Wednesday,
yeah,
it was like, seriously, are you going to let those caucus meetings happen and they're just going to talk about how they're going to get rid of you? Like, that's a nightmare. And so I'm personally glad that he made this announcement so we don't have to spend the next 2 days with more speculation because, right. God, that's getting kind of tired.
Yeah, well, we've been doing it for a year now, right?
I know, right? We've done enough. We've done our part on the speculation.
All right, before we get to the whole resignation part, the technical aspects, because some of us, like me, need to be refreshed when it comes to prorogation. What exactly is it, and how does it work, and what can we expect to see between now and March 24th?
Okay, so prorogation just means that Parliament stops working, stops sitting. It's like a break. So there's no dissolution. Doesn't mean that the MPs aren't MPs anymore. It just means they stop. They'll come back on March 24th because they need to vote on supply and get that all finished by March 31st, or else everything stops working. It's almost like an American government shutdown, right? Where people don't get paid, everything just kind of falls off. And so they don't want to do that. So they will come back for them. But it seems to me the details of the Liberal leadership race are not out yet. So we don't know whether that's going to be done by that point or not. I can't imagine the party wants to do it that fast, but maybe they will. But for now, we won't hear anything from Parliament for almost 3 months.
And that's going to light the fires of Pierre Poilievre, I bet.
Oh, yeah, because he's been spending the last number of years, running against Justin Trudeau. And now he's going to have to run against somebody else. And that's probably not his favorite thing, but we'll see how the Conservatives start to define the people who are in the leadership race for the Liberals. I think they've already started doing that. They've already started, carbon tax, Carney, that kind of stuff. So we'll just see more of that as they try to get through to voters and define their opponents before they can define themselves.
Now, of course, the speculation is going to run rampant when this decision was made and all of those things. But from the words of the Prime Minister, he sat down last night and told his kids over dinner that he had made the decision. He talked to the Liberal Party president yesterday about the decision that he's going to step down as party leader and prime minister after a leadership contest. Lori, how long does it take to run in his words, a robust leadership review or contest?
Well, that's it, right? The party has an interest in making sure that it doesn't look like the fix is in and it was preferred, somebody has some preferential spot. They don't want it to look like Trudeau is having too much of a role in choosing his successor. That's not going to be helpful to anybody. They want to actually revive the party, right? Re-energize it, get some new members, get some money coming in. They need some cash. The Conservatives have been making money hand over fist. The Liberals need a shot. And so I think there's a lot of purpose in this thing, right? It's not just about kind of kicking out Justin Trudeau. It's they need to make sure that this sets them in the right footing for the next election. Usually these things would take somewhere between 3 and 6 months. I don't think they have 3 to 6 months, to be honest. I mean, they maybe have 3, they don't have 6, but it'll be up to the party, the president of the party, to determine what the rules are, what the time frame is going to be, when is the membership sign up cutoff, that kind of thing. What kind of money, what do you need to get involved? Usually they have to come into these things with some sort of an entry fee. It's usually, for the Conservatives, it's something like $100,000. So not cheap. It'll be interesting.
So the Prime Minister said that he's going to stay on until after this leadership review is done. He obviously, we get the whole lame duck word gets kicked around, right? But he has all the powers that he had yesterday, does he not?
Yes. And I mean, that makes me think like we are in a very weird time where we're looking at this inauguration of Trump in a couple of weeks and what that's going to mean for our relationship with the U.S., what that's going to mean for our economy, our integrated supply chain, how we're going to have to diversify trade relationships. Like, I don't think Trudeau can just sit there for a few months and not do anything, right? Like, I think he's going to have to engage so that we don't just get run over by what's going on in the U.S. And so I'm not like as much as, at this point, it would be inappropriate for him to start taking big, policy moves or something like that, which he can't really do because the House isn't sitting and he can't get anything through the House. But he's not going to be a total lame duck either because the circumstances we're in are just too important.
And that whole tariff thing, that's coming.
You bet.
Right? He also said that he was asked the question about Chrystia Freeland and if that was sort of the beginning of the end for him. He kind of danced around that question. Is that what happened here when your finance minister quits on the day of a financial update, then that's the end?
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think I certainly expect that she'll be announcing her interest in the leadership. And so not only was that her saying, I can't be sitting here next to Trudeau anymore because I don't agree with what he's doing, I think that was also the informal kind of not so soft launch of her own leadership bid. And so I don't know how much he wants to tread lightly around that, I think, because it's not going to be a good look for him if he looks in any way to be getting involved, I think, in the leadership. Like, to put the next person in a good stead, he needs to kind of keep a bit away from it, but I don't know if he'll do that. Who knows? It seems I have more questions than answers at this point.
Most of us do.
I'm not sure what the heck is going on. Yeah, exactly.
Right? It felt to me like he kind of threw the caucus under the bus a little bit during that concession speech, did he not? When he said, with all these internal battles I have to fight, I can't fight an election. Fair enough, right? Like, I don't think he's wrong, but yeah.
He's not. And I don't think he has to stand there and pretend he likes this. Nope. Like, he doesn't look to me like he wants to leave. He looks to me like this is exactly what he feels like he has to do. This is not really his choice. He's tried to right the ship. He's certainly, blah, blah, blah. But of course, like, his polling numbers have been tanking. Like, I don't blame the caucus members for saying, I don't want to go down with this ship. There's a way out. We can try to save some of the MPs. Like, I totally get it on either side, but he doesn't look like a prime minister who wants to quit.
Okay, Laurie, who's next? Who's going to pick up the torch? Who's going to pick up the flag and carry on?
Well, I mean, I think there'll be a few who jump in, right? Like, I think Carney seems interested. Freeland seems interested. Christy Clark, who used to be the Premier of British Columbia, looks like she's interested. Perhaps Anita Anand, perhaps Melanie Joly. It could be crowded. Like, it's, and I mean, thinking back to, remember when Stephen McNeil stepped aside, it took him forever to find anybody who was going to run. This, I don't think, is going to be like that. This is there's quite a few interested, even though it doesn't look like the party is headed to an easy time in the next election.
Is it enough? Is the resignation of Prime Minister Trudeau enough to right the ship, to change the fortunes of the Liberal parties, to see that wide gap in the polls get narrowed?
We'll see. I mean, it's possible that there will be a narrowing. Is it going to change things entirely? Like, I mean, that would be a big leap, and I'm not sure that a new leader has the time to do that. It depends on how successful Pierre Poilievre is at framing the next leader as basically a continuation of Justin Trudeau. I think that Trudeau will be the ballot question, even if he's not on the ballot himself. And I think that, that there's just not enough time for the party to totally remake itself. And I think the lead that the Conservatives have had for more than a year now, it would be a really, really difficult thing to knock down. That said, I think a lot of people feel politically orphaned. A lot of people don't like Trudeau. A lot of people don't like Pierre Poilievre either. And if the Liberals manage to choose the right person, it's possible that they could start to build back some support. But is that going to change everything before the next election? I don't know.
The most interesting sort of statement that came out of that news conference for me was when Justin Trudeau was asked about his biggest regret. And he came off and said that proportional representation and not changing the way that we vote in Canada was. Did that surprise you?
No, because he's kind of alluded to that. He talked about that on Nate Erskine-Smith's podcast not too long ago. It was one of the biggest, at the time, it was like the first big broken promise. And I think that probably stuck with him more than he thought it would. Like, most people do not have electoral reform as their top issue in politics. Fair enough. But I don't think Trudeau anticipated how deeply that would scar politically and how much of an effect it would have in terms of this is something that he promised. This is, I think, one of the things that moved young voters toward him, moved NDP voters toward him, and then he didn't go through with it. And I think not only is that a big political blemish for him, but it's also a change that might have really helped him. Because I don't think he wanted proportional. I think he wanted the rank ballot,
the rank ballot,
the preferential ballot,
yeah.
And that would probably be helping the Liberals more than anything. And that was always the criticism, right? Of course, he wants that system. It would be great for the Liberals, but yeah, it would have. They might be in a better situation now.
Now, what's next for the leaders of the opposition parties? What's next for Pierre Poilievre, and what's next for Jagmeet Singh?
Well, I mean, Poilievre is going to try to frame the next leader of the Liberal Party, whoever it is, right? Like, he has been spending his time running against Justin Trudeau, and now he's going to have to switch gears, which is not going to be his favorite thing to do, but, he'll figure it out, I'm sure. And he's going to want to just get kind of undermine any momentum a new leader could grab onto. Who that is, the strategy will depend on who that person is, where they're from, where they could take, any kind of a swipe at what the Conservatives have been able to build under Poilievre's leadership. I'm just thinking out loud here, but somebody like Christy Clark, who's a Liberal but pretty conservative, could be somebody that, if you're a Conservative voter and you don't love Poilievre, she could be somewhere that you might want to move your vote. Now, Singh, I don't know. I have never thought that this, Liberal NDP supply and confidence agreement was a good idea for the NDP at all. It seems to me they've never really been able to lift themselves up to take some kind of credit or momentum for the things that they've accomplished with the Liberals. And so I don't know what the next election is going to look like for the NDP, but Singh needs it to go well, or else his own leadership is going to be on the line.
Laurie, appreciate your time on very short notice.
Anytime. Take care.
That is Laurie Turnbull, political scientist from Dalhousie University. We've got a few minutes left before the top of the hour. The telephone lines are open. 902-405-6000 is the number. Your thoughts on what you just heard. The Prime Minister stepping down after a leadership contest says that with all the internal battles that he was fighting, he couldn't be the one to carry the Liberal banner into the next election. Very interested in what you have to think about it. 902-405-6000. We're back after the break. I remember when I was a little tall, could have used a few pounds. Now I'm a little too tall and can use to lose a few pounds. After the Christmas holidays, of course. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Todd, by the way, is back tomorrow, so I hope that you join him. There's going to be lots to talk about as the reaction to today's announcement starts to filter its way through. Laurie Turnbull and I were chatting about Pierre Poilievre during the last segment, and during that segment, in comes a press release from the Conservative Party leader, and I'll read the first little bit of it. It says, the Honourable Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and official opposition, released the following statement. Canadians desperate to turn the page on this dark chapter in our history might be relieved today that Justin Trudeau is finally leaving. But what has really changed? Every Liberal MP in power today and every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years. All Liberal politicians actively work to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax, a tax that Carbon Tax Carney endorsed in his book. All supported a law quadrupling the tax over the next 5 years. All voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt and immigration. All passed Trudeau's housing policies that doubled the cost of homes. All Liberal politicians helped pass and catch and release bail and house arrest for the most rampant reoffenders, policies and increased violent crime 50%, gun crime 116%, and hate crime by 250%. There's a bunch more, but for the sake of time, we'll leave that where it is. That from the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, who is watching and reacting to the announcement that the Prime Minister is stepping down, as is Wayne, who joins us on the telephone line. Wayne, how are you?
Very well, yourself.
Good. Your thoughts?
I was very, very disappointed because at no time in that speech did I detect that this guy was sorry for what he is responsible for. If he'd have stood up like a man and said, hey, I screwed up, not those words, but then I would have a great deal more respect. But he didn't, in his choice of language, when he's referring to Freeland, he didn't say, she's been on the team, she's been at my side. She's not his wife. He could have talked a little bit more respectful. I thought that was kind of chauvinistic language to use. And I told him, like I said, I'll just enforce that one more time. I'll get off the line. He did not own up to anything. He blamed everybody but the guy that's responsible, the caucus and so on. That's all I got.
Okay, Wayne, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
902-405-6000. We got about 5 minutes left if you want to get in here and do a quick hitter. To Wayne's point, I did not, and you're right, did not hear an apology for anything. There was a regret question, and it was what we talked about with Laurie, which was the ranked ballot or the proportional representation that he said he regretted. But to be fair, I watched many politicians resign. Very few of them own up to what they did wrong. Most of them will champion what they consider to be their legacy. But very few will say, well, yeah, I screwed up. I don't think I've ever heard a politician say that. Maybe I have, but it certainly is very few and far between. 902-405-6000 is the number. Just a few highlights for me out of that news conference that we ran here with the Prime Minister. Parliament now essentially done, prorogued until March 24th, which means that they're just not going to work. Still getting paid. Interesting. That being said, so all of the motions and the filibustering that was going on in the House of Commons is now done. The Prime Minister saying that in stepping down, he's going to stay on as leader until the Liberals hold a robust leadership contest. I wonder how long a leadership contest can be if it's robust. If we're going to face a non-confidence motion very early in the next session, right? Can you put this thing together and have a good, vigorous, to use the Prime Minister's term, robust leadership contest in just a couple of months? Normally these things take like almost a year, maybe sometimes more than a year. 902-405-6000. Michelle, welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to make a comment about the from the last caller.
Sure.
I could call in and speak for hours and hours, but he was looking for an apology from the PM. Not all Canadians think that he did things wrong. Certainly, the list of items that Poilievre just spoke of in his comments. Those aren't necessarily accurate at all, let alone do we think that he was at fault for any of them. And just to clarify for that gentleman who the last caller, I appreciate that he was concerned about the anti-feminist or the non-supportive wording from the Prime Minister. But I think that as a woman, I'd like to tell him that I wasn't offended by it. And when he said that Krista Freeland was at his side, she was at his side running the country. Right. She wasn't at his side as a surrogate wife.
Michelle, appreciate your points.
An equal partner. So thank you very much for your time.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000. The open hour will continue tomorrow. Todd will be back in the chair, and he will be taking your calls on, and I assume there will be many on this subject as this sort of the shockwaves of this announcement. Even shockwaves, this was kind of coming, wasn't it? We just didn't know the exact date, but once this starts to filter through and everybody gets a chance to get their opinions and their heads wrapped around this, the telephone lines will open again here on the Todd Veinotte Show tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So I'm looking forward to listening to you all, to chat with Todd about it. A very special thank you to all of our guests, to David Hensbee and to Sam Austin for joining us for Councillors on the Hot Seat. And, of course, to Laurie Turnbull for joining us for on very short notice to get some reaction to the bombshell announcement, the Prime Minister resigning today. Super huge. I can't even say it enough. Thanks to Vanessa Vandenez, who has been working behind the scenes, working her fingers to the bone, trying to get this show booked. And then Dan canceled it all on her and then rebooked. So everybody, just next time you're talking to Vanessa, tell her she's awesome, because she is. And she really makes the show go round. And to each and every one of you that took time out of your busy day today to join me and join the conversation, you make my day each and every day you do it. Don't know the next time I'll be back in the big chair, but until then, be kind to one another.